Hello and welcome to the virtual Tour de France. The last two stages last weekend were in the Zwift world of Watopia. This weekend we arrive in France. Well, we're going to bring you both the men's and the women's race. We start off with the women racing over this brand new course on the Zwift platform. This is the current standings in the Maillot Jaune, the yellow jersey. Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank are the leaders of the team classification, and one of their riders will be in the yellow jersey today, Kristen Faulkner of Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. They had a very good weekend last weekend. They're also in the green jersey standings at the top with 93 points to Canyon SRAM's 87. Today the green jersey will be worn by Nina Kessler, also of Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. Well, stage one was a surprise for everybody. The young rider who took the stage was April Tacey of Team Drops, the British team, and April will be wearing the Queen of the Mountains jersey on stage 3. Our final jersey classification is the white jersey, of course, for the best young rider, and there are the standings in that classification today. Let's remind you then of how this works. The Tour de France Virtual is a team classification. So at the finish line, points are awarded, as you can see there on the screen, with 50 points for the winner. The riders in the top 25 get points, and they're all accumulated. The team is then given the yellow jersey, and they nominate a rider to wear it. Also, the same applies for the green jersey. There are intermediate sprints along the way. Today there are 4 sprints, and there are points at the stage finish as well. All those points accumulate for the green jersey competition. The polka dot jersey for the climbers. Today there are 2 Queen of the Mountains points. On the aqueduct there are 3, 2 and 1 points available for the category 3 climb that the riders will face today. Finally, the best young rider. This is the classification for riders born after January the 1st, 1995. And at the finish, the top 10 riders born after that date will score points. The points are combined again as a team, and the team get given the white jersey, which they nominate a rider to wear. Team classification is a combination of all the points across all the different classifications, and that means that we then see which team is at the top of the leaderboard. And don't forget, today you can take part in a poll. So if you're on Twitter, you're a fan of Twitter, go on @LeTour and you can vote for your most aggressive rider of both the men's race and the women's race. Make sure you keep a bit of a check on that. Now, Zwift is a game. It's a virtual game, although the riders have to put out big effort on their indoor trainers. There are things called power-ups, and we will explain those as the race continues. Here's the lineup then of the riders today. These are the various teams that are taking part, 16 teams. And there's some big names in today's race. Here's a look at today's route then. As you can see, there are 4 intermediate sprints along the way. There are 2 climbs on the aqueduct, and the points then will be accumulated. 48 kilometers, 2 laps of a 24-kilometer course, and that profile looks pretty spiky, doesn't it? It's rolling and it's pretty quick. As we take a look down here at the peloton, who have just gone through the intermediate sprint. "17 minutes and 40 seconds of racing have already been completed."
Allô, allô, bonjour et bienvenue sur Radio Tour pour la 3e étape du Tour de France virtuel femmes. La course est lancée, située sur le territoire français. 2 tours de circuit à parcourir pour une distance totale de 48 km. 16 équipes représentées. Hello and welcome on Race Radio for Stage 3 of the Ladies Virtual Tour de France. The race is currently underway, situated on the French territory. 2 laps to be covered for a total distance of 48 kilometers, 16 teams represented.
The riders then approaching, as we just heard the voice of Radio Tour Seb Piquet. The riders onto the Queen of the Mountains, the first of these today. There will be 3 points for the first rider across the line, and it looked like April Tacey used a power-up to get across the line first. We'll just tidy up the results. But April Tacey is the rider who is in the Queen of the Mountains jersey at the moment. And it looked like she was right up there at the front when she was going across that point. Here we are with the yellow jersey. This is Kristen Faulkner as she makes her way towards the front, having gone over the aqueduct, which those of you who are eagle-eyed is modelled in this virtual world on the famous Pont de Gare in France, the 1st century water-carrying aqueduct, which spans 275 metres and is 48 metres in height, and of course was one of the key features of last year's Tour de France. April Tacey then keeping a close eye on what was going on as she made her way up the aqueduct for the first time. There she is on the left-hand side, putting out 220 odd watts of power through those legs, 84 reps a minute. An interesting rider, only 19 years of age, but her power belies her age already. She actually broke her knee in December, which meant that she didn't do any racing at all at the beginning of the season when there was a little bit of racing. She was basically rehabilitating to get herself back into some sort of race fitness. And well, she's already made a big name for herself, because beating all the top names in the virtual Tour de France last weekend for April Tacey was a huge, huge moment. Well, hopefully in a moment we'll get the results of the points in that Queen of the Mountains classification. I think it was April Tacey who was first across the top, followed by one of the members of the Ceratizit WNT Pro Cycling team. But the drops team are doing very well. There's confirmation then. So it was April Tacey. She launched a power-up just before the top of the climb, and it was Katrin Hammes of WNT, or Ceratizit WNT, who was in second, and drops also up there in 3rd place. So this British team with Finja Smekal in 3rd place. The drops team looking to find a sponsor to become a world level squad. And they're certainly not doing their chances any harm at all of getting as many eyeballs on their squad as possible during this Tour de France. Here is Kristen Faulkner. There she is at home on the left-hand side, a very interesting young rider. 2nd on stage 1, 5th on stage 2 of the Zwift Tour for All. She's a Harvard graduate, works for a venture capitalist, and rides as a pro rider on Tibco Silicon Valley Bank part-time as well. And certainly the sponsors are making sure they get as much coverage there in the background as possible. Great to see that these riders are all starting to think about their setups with their cameras and everything else. A group then of riders who have accumulated at the front, and it looks to me like we've still got maybe around 30 riders in this peloton. A reminder then of the various classifications. The yellow jersey is Team Tibco's. They have an advantage at the moment, which is pretty substantial on team drops. They have 170 points they accumulated last weekend. Remember, it's all about the accumulation of as many points as possible. All your riders in the top 25 score points. Drops were on 109 points. Here's our green jersey for the leader of the points classification, Nina Kessler. Nina from the Netherlands, 32 years of age, riding along there, 2nd in the Prudential Ride London in the UK, and 4th in the Chinese race, Chongming. putting out just under 200 watts, or in fact now notching up to 270 watts as she just started to go back towards the rear of the group. So the peloton with some top names in here. Towards the front is Shara Gillow, rides for the FDJ team, the Australian rider. 2 laps today then of 24 kilometres. Next on the horizon for the riders today is going to be our intermediate sprint at 18.1, so we're around 500 metres from this intermediate sprint. In fact, we're just about to get to it now. So the green jersey worn by Nina Kessler, Team Tibco, will be looking for it. As you can see, little icons above the riders show some power-ups being used, and a big power-up being used by Katrin Hammers. A featherweight power-up, which reduces your weight by 9.5 kilos, being used by one of the riders at the front, Lach. So Lach goes across the line, putting in 7.2 watts per kilo as she rode across the line there for CCC Liv, Marta Lach. So she scores the intermediate sprint points. Very good use of a power-up. So those of you who have not seen Zwift racing before, the power-ups can be used and they assist the riders. There are 5 different power-ups in total that can be used, and right now you can see one rider with a power-up above them. This is Marta Lach. Look how hard she's having to work at the moment just to stay in the wheels, having gone for that sprint. There she is, 257 watts. She's trying to get herself into the wheels. Now today she'll have her AirPods in or something like that, her headphones in, because Ashley Moolman-Passio, who's a very good Zwift rider, will be in the driving seat of the virtual team car and be talking to her riders. For Georgie towards the front now. Confirmation then of the sprint. In fact, it was Alice Barnes who was first across the line then. To me, like one of the CCC riders, but it's been given to Alice Barnes. So we always wait for confirmation of the result across the line. So Alice Barnes of Canyon SRAM gets the maximum 10 points towards the points classification. That's going to help them a lot there, because they are in second place, the Canyon SRAM squad, with 87 points compared to 93 that Team Tibco have. Now this group is starting to reduce in size at the moment, so we'll keep an eye on what is happening as far as this group is concerned. Riders will sit in the slipstream. You're able to draft on Zwift, which is very good news for the riders. You're able to sit in the wheels, and you actually do get a reduction in the amount of power you have to put up to stay in the group itself. There's our timeline. So the second peloton is at 1 minute, the third peloton is at 1:31. Now the riders, in terms of riding on Zwift, you've really got to work your tactics out and make sure that you think about how you ride the game. Those of you watching for the first time, the riders are on home trainers, so they're all sitting at home in their various garages, balconies, lounges, kitchens in some cases. April Tacey was in the kitchen last weekend. And the trainer that the riders are on links to the game itself on their computer, and it controls how the game feels in terms of riding. So the amount of power you have to put out to keep the bike's momentum going forward is very much the same as you would feel on the road. In fact, in many cases, this sort of racing can be even harder. Here's our white jersey. This is Krista Riffel, who is in the white jersey today for the Canyon SRAM team. And there she is as she continues with her effort. She's getting a little bit of assistance, and some riders do ask for a little bit of assistance. This rider is 21 years of age, comes from Germany, and is a level 24 rider on Zwift. You start at 0, you work your way all the way up the different levels of Zwift. So a level 24 rider has got a good bit of experience on this virtual performance platform. 4,856 kilometers she had completed before she started today's race. So she's got plenty of experience. And when we look at the women's team, you can see there at the top of the classification, Canyon SRAM now lead the green jersey with 127 points compared to Team Tibco's 103. But Canyon SRAM are very experienced on the Zwift platform because they have a partnership with this platform itself. Some of the riders in the team have won the Zwift Academy, which selects one rider per season to be given a pro contract with Canyon SRAM. As we go back here to the Harvard graduate Kristen Faulkner, riding in the yellow jersey of Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. Just rolling along. She has been one of the revelations of this squad on Zwift. She really does understand how it works. Her teammate Nina Kessler, who's also in one of the jerseys, has done a lot of riding in the last week to get the feel for the platform, and you really do need to have the feel for this type of platform. They do tend to say that you need almost a Zwift IQ. You need to know how the sensations are of riding on the platform, riding on your trainer all the time, because of course the bike doesn't move left to right, it's absolutely still. As we make our way through these rolling areas back down towards the completion of the first lap of racing, of course. Here's April Tacey's average watts in the last 500 meters, 623 watts in that sprint. So some big numbers being put out by these riders, particularly a young rider of 19 years of age. So towards the front, Lily Williams is up there. And the group moving around. Some of the team directors will be telling their riders, sit in the top 10, sit in the wheels, stay in the draft, and then that way you will know how to conserve a little bit of energy. Each time the riders go underneath an arch, whether it be a sprint arch or a Queen of the Mountains or the finish line, they will be given a new power-up. So they need to make sure that they've got rid of the power-up that they have, unless it's one they want to use. Get rid of it just before they get to the archway. Then they are given a new power-up, one of the 5 different power-ups that we have, which they can then decide to use in the race as they continue. You can see a few little icons being shown. One of the riders using the aero icon, which makes them, in the terms of power-ups, more aerodynamic for 15 seconds. Lily Williams then comes to the front in the orange of Team Rally Cycling, the American squad. Again, lack of CCC Liv is always near the front. And Beekhouse now is the rider who takes over the pacemaking at the front of the peloton. Beekhouse Tointje Beekhouse riding for the Lotto Soudal ladies team. That squad this afternoon, I've got Christina Seegaard, the world champion of the Madison, Lotte Kopecky, and Julie van der Velde. Katrin Hammers, though, of the Ceratizit WNT team, is constantly near the front as we see a little bit of an attack now. We're getting close to the completion of this first lap of racing. April Tacey always near the front. This young rider looking for another stage victory in this virtual Tour de France. Coming up then to complete lap number 1 of 24 kilometres. Very fast racing so far. 33 minutes and 11 seconds. And as we head up towards the line this time, the riders will go through the line with 1 lap to go. They'll get the bell and they'll have 24 kilometres of racing remaining. A few power-ups being used at the right time so that the riders can accumulate new ones. Sitting on the back of the group, Tanya Ereth. As Jade Wheel now goes to the front, a former French champion, riding for the French squad of FDJ Nouvelle Aquitaine Futuroscope. A few power-ups now being used. I can see one rider using a lightweight power-up, reducing her weight by 9.5 kilos for 15 seconds, igniting that power-up. 5 for Georgie now on the front. So the riders rolling along at 45 kilometres an hour. Tanya Ereth heads towards the front of the peloton. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the names of the riders. And underneath, you can see some figures. Lily Williams, for example, 3.5 watts per kilo, which means she's putting out, that's how many watts per kilo of her body weight she is putting out. Tanya Ereth, a winner of the Zwift Academy. She looks pretty comfortable. She's a doctor, qualified doctor. She just looks for, I think maybe she took a gel in her pocket then. In the last 7 days, this rider has ridden 234 kilometres on Zwift. She's getting ready for today's stage. This stage will suit Tanya Ereth. She's a sprinter. It's a flat stage. As we go back to the next rider, it looked like Nina Kessler riding in the green jersey. But Tanya Ereth, her Zwift IQ is very, very high. She has ridden a huge amount on this platform. It's how she got her professional contract. And since then, she's become a really useful ally in that Canyon SRAM team. Canyon SRAM today, Alice Barnes, the British champion, Rotem Gavinovic and Krista Riffel. Now, I rode this course last night. Now, this area of this French course, the RGV course, which is a little bit of a play on TGV, so route à grande vitesse. As we go back here to look at Lily Williams, the American rider. Lily Williams, a very strong track rider, as we make our way onto the pavé, onto the cobbles. Some of these trainers that the riders on will give the vibration as though they are on the cobbles, so it does feel really like simulated racing. As Lily just concentrates, she rides on the track a lot for the American team. And there she is, her avatar, rolling along within the peloton. Don't forget today, do follow hashtag TDF United, because we are raising as much money as possible for 5 cycling related charities. So please keep an eye on what's going on as far as the hashtag is concerned. And also don't forget, you can join me on Twitter. There's our group of riders. And that's a wonderful sight, isn't it? There we go. There's all the riders, or a show of many of the riders across the world in their virtual world right now on their smart trainers. You can see all the different styles of the women's peloton as they try to stay within the group. Gives you an indication, doesn't it, of the riders, where they are, how they're riding. Right, towards the front of the group now. Loretta Hansen is in the group. Pernille Mathisen, the Danish rider. April Tacey constantly near the front. Her motivation must be extremely high right now after taking stage number 1 last week. So don't forget, you can join me on Twitter if you'd like to, @AntMcCrossan, and you can give me your prediction on who you think might be the winner of today's stage. This is Jade Wheel. There she is, French champion, in her French champion's aero suit. A little bit of motivation, out the saddle, working hard at 194 watts. Just shows you how hard you have to work. There is literally no hiding as far as this type of racing is concerned. Just to stay in the group is extremely difficult. Talking to some of the pro men during the week, saying that this sort of effort can be as hard as trying to win a time trial in a Grand Tour. It's extremely tough on the body. Next point on the horizon for the riders then will be our intermediate sprint on the pavé. Our pavé sprint comes up at 36.01 kilometers. Now today, in terms of racing, there's no major climbs, so the possibility of attacking and getting away is really hard. But if you can use a power up to good effect, you can try and get away. So we go back to take a little look at the Queen of the Mountains, April Tacey. There she is, onto the pavé again for April. You'll notice she's got her headphones in, because her team director will be talking in her ear. The teammates will also talk to each other. They use the gaming channel Discord, a little app on their phone that they're able to talk across the world. So April Tacey in the Queen of the Mountains jersey, a very proud moment for her as the leader of the Drops team after that win last weekend. Coming up next, an interview. Give you a little bit more of an insight into the racing today.
Winning the first stage of the Women's Virtual Tour de France has been amazing, especially as this year it is my first year racing at UCI level with Team Drops. At 19 years old, this is the biggest win of my career so far, and it has given me a lot of confidence going into the road season this year. It's been great that women's cycling get equal TV time and equal stages as the men, and this will hopefully improve women's cycling. The fans have been really positive, and it's been quite overwhelming reading all your lovely kind messages. I'd just like to say thank you. Coming into the races this weekend, I will be racing stage 3 and 4, and I'm most looking forward to stage 3 as it's a flat stage and hopefully it will finish in a sprint.
April Tacey, a little bit of an insight from her. She's had a very, very busy week. Last weekend, really nobody across the world knew who she was. This weekend, everyone knows her as the winner of the first ever stage of the Virtual Tour de France. Here's our group. 2 Team 2020 riders are pretty close together in there, wearing numbers 42 and 44. Yasmin Düring and Georgia Simmerling. Getting close then to our intermediate sprint. We're about 5 kilometers away. Last night I rode the virtual this stage with Yasmin Düring, so I got an insight as to how she was riding it. Look at that lovely side of the virtual France here in Zwift, and no better sight than the virtual Mont Saint-Michel. So last night Yasmin let me join her for a little ride around the course, which was great to be able to do. It gave me an insight as to how she was going to ride it, the sort of power output. She tried a few power-ups. Here's Chloe Dygert. Chloe Dygert, world champion of the time trial, 7 times world champion on the track, putting out 240 watts right now, but just rolling along at 68 revs a minute, riding a very big gear here with her heart rate at 152 beats per minute. She's got the style at home. She lives in Idaho. She lives near her team manager, Nicola Cranmer, and her coach, Kristen Armstrong, the Olympic champion of the time trial, lives round the corner. So there is never any possibility of Chloe Dygert deciding to not do the training plan that she's been given, because Kristen literally lives round the corner from her, about 100 meters away. There's where we are on the map, bottom right-hand corner. Coming up then towards the intermediate sprint. And just a reminder that the first of the intermediate sprints, or the first one we saw, was taken by Alice Barnes, the British champion from Canyon SRAM. Icon above the rider in the green jersey is the lightweight icon. It means she's ignited a power up to help her stay in the group. That means that if she's suffering, what she looks to be right now, a little bit of suffer going on, the featherweight will reduce her weight for 15 seconds by 9.5 kilos. It means the legs can just recover a little bit. It means she can almost take a little bit of a breath. She'll stay in the slipstream as long as she keeps pedaling, and she won't get dropped by using that power up. This course is demanding, physically demanding and mentally demanding in terms of simulated bike racing. You may remember last weekend, if you were watching, we had a few climbs, but we also had a few descents, which meant the riders were able to use the super tuck feature in the game, which means they can literally stop pedaling while they go downhill. But here, there is not really any of that, so they've got to keep the pressure on all of the time. It means that in terms of your muscles, your legs, they're going to feel very, very tired. And certainly when I rode this as a recon last night with Yasmin During of Team 2020, it was very noticeable about the fatigue that was starting to tell in your legs as the race actually continued, because you are having to keep the pressure on all of the time. There is no real let up at all. Lily Williams at the front, so is Tanya Ereth. Katrin Hammers is in here. Also in here is Eva Berman. She's riding up towards the front. Just looking at other names who are in this group of riders. Pfeiffer Georgie. Pfeiffer Georgie rides for Team Sunweb. Has only really ever ridden 53 kilometers on Zwift. But Pfeiffer Georgie is a very talented young rider. She was a key performer in the Junior Nations Cup before she was signed at a very young age by Team Sunweb. She finished her school studies before she then moved into Team Sunweb. Here is Yasmin During. She's a bronze medalist in the Olympic Games on 2 occasions, 4 times a silver medalist in the World Championships. Yasmin looks like she is really digging deep here at 90 revs a minute, 255 watts, staying up towards the front. A lot of riders talk about just how mentally in this simulated racing you have to really pay attention to where and how your avatar moves within the game, how you stay near the front, how much pressure you need to keep on. And they tend to keep an eye on the right-hand side of the screen here, and they keep an eye on the watts per kilo to see whether a rider is starting to attack. If they start to see an increase in the watts per kilo of riders around about them, then they have to react. And that's what they watch a lot of the time while they are riding and racing on this platform. Well, it wouldn't be the Tour de France without the sunflowers, would it? As we make our way through the sunflower field. Such famous photographs from amazing photographers like Graham Watson on the Tour de France have been taken by wandering into the sunflower fields and shooting across to the riders as they passed. Well, so much inspiration in this Zwift game today has been taken from various areas across France, the sunflower fields. As we go back here with Pernille Mathisen of Team Sunweb. One huge fan being used there to try and keep her cool despite even being outside. On now towards the sprint point. First sprint was taken by Alice Barnes. We'll take a look and see who's going to take it this time, who's up towards the front. Has someone managed to get a power up to be used? Alice Barnes goes to the front yet again. Barnes putting out 8.3 watts per kilo. Loretta Hansen, though, looks like she's going to go past. There's a little bit of a challenge on the line between Riffel and Hansen, with also up there Kristen Faulkner looking for some points. Remember, it's a team competition, so the riders across the line, the points are accumulated, and the team is given the green jersey. Green jersey being held at the moment by Team Tibco. They don't seem to be on the game as far as getting as many points are concerned this week, but Kristen Faulkner is up there. Here is Loretta Hansen riding for the Trek Segafredo team. This is starting to look really tough. 202 watts, 187 beats a minute as she went for that sprint. 45 kilometers an hour now these riders are simulating on this trainer, and as you can see from the pictures, this is not easy at all. These riders are having to push their bodies to the limit at 187 beats a minute. Let's take a look at the replay. Loretta Hansen was definitely up there. We'll get the results in a moment. Not far to go now to the finish line. 12 kilometers of racing. A few more power-ups being used. Another lightweight power-up. That's the green icon above the rider we're looking down on. Again, reducing the weight. So, sprint 2, it was Loretta Hansen who took it. She gets the 10 points for a Trek Segafredo team. And Riffel takes some more points for the Canyon SRAM team, which means, by my reckoning, the green jersey is now on the shoulders of Canyon SRAM, ahead of the Drops team in second place. Now, riders who've been sitting in the draft, you can see 3 green and blue jerseys of Team 2020. They're an American squad. They're very well known on Zwift. They hold rides every Thursday for as many riders to join them as possible as we make our way onto the simulated Pont de Gare. Spanning 48 meters in height, heading towards the second Queen of the Mountains now, taken last time by April Tacey. And it looks like this time a featherweight power-up has been used by Katrin Hammes. Her teammate Erica McNaldy last week was really strong in the climbs. So I think it was Katrin Hammes who was first across the top. Teammate of Drops, Queen of the Mountains, Smekal, was also near the front as well. So Finja Smekal, who took 3rd place in the first Queen of the Mountains, has scored some points there for her team. Here is Katrin Hammes, riding for the Ceratizit WNT Pro Cycling team. They're a German squad. Drops today should, I think, be holding on to their leader's jersey, but we'll see. Remember, it's a team competition, so it's all about how many team points you accumulate in that overall situation. Confirmation then that Hammes took 10, Smekal took 9, and Faulkner took 8 in that points climb that time. 3rd category climb. So maximum points then for the team of Ceratizit WNT. We're getting set then as we head towards the finish. There will be one more intermediate sprint, the Ballon Sprint. Kristen Faulkner, the yellow jersey of Team Tibco, now starting to look very, very keen to be near the front. Canyon Schramm with Krista Riffel putting out 209 watts, riding 87 reps per minute. Getting a little bit of assistance there. The fan blowing on her, continuing to drink all the time. You've got to keep your fluid levels up on this type of racing because you literally sweat constantly. Thanks very much to all of you who've joined us across the world for this virtual Tour de France. If you'd like to join us on Twitter this afternoon, at McCrossan is where you can join me. There's the mountains classification then. Drops now lead. They were in the jersey earlier on. Ceratizit now in second at 22 points, so Drops will keep the Queen of the Mountains. Canyon Schramm in third place in that overall competition. Nearly at the next sprint, just over 2 kilometres until we meet the third intermediate sprint. Jade Wild, the French champion, goes to the front on 3.5 watts per kilo. We're back here with Lily Williams. You can see her heart rate now at 175 beats per minute. So now that body is under real stress. Now riding at a cadence of almost 90 beats a minute. The pace constantly today in this women's race around about 44 to 45 kilometers an hour. They've been racing for nearly 55 minutes. You can see now the inspiration in this area is the vineyards of France, particularly the Burgundy region of France. I have to say, you have to admire the way the Zwift game developers have created these virtual worlds for these riders to race in. Twists and turns, it feels like the vineyards of France that we go through in the Tour. We think back to like Epernay last year with Julien Alaphilippe winning that stage as we race through the Champagne regions. Lily Williams now at the front of the peloton. So in this group then, let's take a look at who could win. April Tacey, who won stage 1 last week. Also in here is Charagillo Marche, who rides for the FDJ team, the Australian rider. Also in here, Chloe Dygert, the world champion of the time trial. As we head towards the next of our intermediate sprints, which is 1 kilometre away. Here is Kristen Faulkner in the yellow jersey. Nearly at the intermediate sprint. We're a few hundred meters away. There it is in the distance. They're going to get ready for this intermediate sprint now. This is the Ballon Sprint. Loretta Hansen took the last one. Hannah Barnes took the first one that we saw. This is for the green jersey. 10 points for the winner across the line. Then it goes 8, 6, 4, 2 and 1. And remember, it's about your team, so you need to score as many points as possible. Canyon Schramm represented at the front with Alice Barnes. Smakel of Drops is also there. CCC Liv are challenging. As they make their way across the line, it was Marcus and Lach, I think. Both of the CCC Liv team who were heading across the line first. Well, we'll get confirmation in a moment of which rider took those intermediate sprints. We'll get the results, but it certainly looked like it was Rajane Marcus of CCC Liv, who was the first rider across the line with Marta Lacker, teammate. There is Rajane Marcus. And the team got various training camps going on at the moment. She looks very composed despite the effort she's putting out. 408 watts, Regine Marcus. There's her avatar sitting towards the back of the group after that big effort. We're getting set then for the completion of stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. 40 kilometers an hour. Yasmin Düring is in here. Chloe Dygert is in here. In fact, 2020 have 4 riders in this front group. All of their team are in this group. Chloe Dygert, Yasmin Düring, Shayna Paulus and Georgia Simmerling have all made the front group. That's very good news for them for the overall classification. So the yellow jersey 2020 are in 3rd place in the yellow jersey competition. Here's Tanya Ereth. As I said earlier, 258 kilometers already this week on Zwift, getting ready for this race. She looks very composed. This is a stage that she could win for Canyon SRAM. It's a group of around 20 riders, 25 riders. Dygert heads up towards the front of the peloton. Alice Barnes is a very, very good sprinter for Canyon SRAM. Chloe Dygert is in here at the front. Here is Tanya Ereth. She's now starting to make her way towards the front. Lily Williams at 3.6 watts per kilo. Shara Gillow also in here. April Tacey, could she do the unthinkable and win 2 stages in this race? So there's confirmation on the right-hand side of the screen. Classment of the green jersey. So Canyon SRAM now have the green at the moment. There are still points on the finish line for the green jersey. Team Tibco now in 2nd place and Team Drops in 3rd. The yellow jersey proudly on the avatar of Kristen Faulkner. It's a very big moment for this team to be in the yellow jersey. They're guided by Rachel Hederman, a British team director. And here is Kristen Faulkner, her last drink before the final effort. 170 beats a minute now, her heart rate. She's concentrating hard to just stay up there near the front. She's been one of the revelations of this racing so far. There she is, moving her way up now. You've got to be in the first few places and you've got to unleash your sprint at the right time. All these riders will also be thinking about those power-ups. So remember, I was talking about those. There are 5 power-ups. The aero one makes you more aero for 15 seconds. The draft means that you increase the draft effect in the peloton for 30 seconds. The breakaway burrito makes you undraftable for 10. So that means if you have that one and you unleash it in the last kilometre, you've got 10 seconds where no one can draft you at all, can sit on your wheel. So that's a really good power-up to have. Lightweight is really good for the climbs, but will help you in the finish sprint. It reduces your weight by 9.5 kilos for 15 seconds. Most combative rider, Shayna Paulus of Team 2020. Don't forget, during the racing, you can always vote for your most combative rider. So Shayna Paulus of Team 2020 gets the most combative rider of the day. Three and a half kilometers to go. Nina Kessler, has she been dropped? I think she may well have been dropped by the peloton. She's found it just a little bit too difficult today. Well, I know that Nina Kessler was one of the riders that Tibco were thinking of for today's victory. So that's not good news for the overall for Team Tibco in the yellow jersey. There's the shot of all the riders across the world working hard, picking out some of the riders. Shara Gillow down towards the bottom of the screen. Ruth Winder also. Lotte Kopecky, the world champion of the Madison. Lily Williams also up towards the top. We've seen her a few times today. But in the group, Alice Barnes on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, the British champion in her British champions colours, is in here with a chance of winning today's stage. So is the young British rider April Tacey. Yasmin During is in here. Chloe Dygert is in here. 2.5 kilometres to go. Now the pace really starts to go up. The watts per kilo start to notch up. We're now at watts per kilo of over 4. You have to be up at around 4.5 watts per kilo to be able to stay in the group. Kristen Faulkner is always there in the yellow jersey. She must be looking at her avatar and getting a little bit of morale in that yellow jersey this afternoon. 41 kilometres an hour. Now we go through these little rock and roll sections of the course. A couple of little kicking rises of around 1 to 2%, but they hurt the legs when you're going this flat out. As you can see, they slow down to around about 38 kilometres an hour. Faulkner on the front of the peloton now. I don't know if that's where she wants to be. A few featherweight power-ups being used. As you can see, the icons above the riders, reducing their weight by 9.5 kilos. Might be a little bit too early to use it, but if you're suffering over that little kicker, the little bit where your legs are really hurting, igniting that power-up will give you just that little bit of a spurt that you need to stay in the peloton. A reminder, top of the screen, the hashtag is TDF United if you'd like to support any of our 5 cycling-related charities. Now we're starting to work our way down towards the finish. 1,400 metres to go. Simmerling is near the front. Team 2020 are getting themselves ready. They can lead each other out in this. They can decide that one rider will let all the other riders draft behind them and bring it up to top speed. The white jersey now at the front. Krista Riffel of Canyon SRAM. She's getting ready to try and maybe lead out Alice Barnes. The yellow jersey of Kristen Faulkner is also up there for Team Tibco. A few other power-ups being used. Only 1,100 metres of racing to go. 1 hour and 5 minutes of racing completed underneath the red kite with 1,000 metres to go. One rider ignites the draft power-up. Getting in towards the finish. It's going to be a very, very fast last kilometre of racing. Who's going to take it as we peel back and look at the peloton making their way in towards the finish line in this 3rd stage of the virtual Tour de France. April Tacey is near the front, putting out 5.5 watts per kilo into the last few hundred metres now at nearly 60 kilometres an hour. Pernille Mathisen of Team Sunweb is up there at the front. Who is going to take it as they head in towards the last area, turning right? Chloe Dygert is up there. A few more power-ups being used. 2020 look to be in very good position. The yellow jersey comes to the front now, uses an aero power-up. Kristen Faulkner, and she is going to, everyone's igniting power-ups now. Faulkner is there, Tacey is there, Alice Barnes is also there, hitting the line. It looked to me like it may well have been Tanya Ereth of the Canyon SRAM team who is first across the line, followed by Chloe Dygert and April Tacey. She made her move very, very late, Tanya Ereth. But the rider who won the Zwift Academy, to me, looks like she's the first rider across the line. There she is, wearing number 11. Tanya Ereth will wait for confirmation, but being shown on the screen, she's the rider who's done all the prep. Tanya Ereth of Canyon SRAM. Look at her on the left-hand side, just trying to recover from that huge, huge effort. Well, on my screen, it's Tanya Ereth, Chloe Dygert, April Tacey. But we'll just wait for confirmation. There she is on the left-hand side. Tanya Ereth rode a spectacular race then to, I think, take the stage victory here on stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. She surfed her way in the wheels. She did the preparation, and that's a very, very well-deserved win. Tanya Ereth of Canyon SRAM. Well, they talk about the Zwift IQ, the knowledge of how to ride this sort of racing, and she did all the prep. There she is, winner of stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France, Tanja Ereth of Canyon SRAM. Behind her was Chloe Dygert, the world champion of the time trial. Another spectacular result for Team Drops, with April Tacey taking 3rd place. Well, April Tacey in 2 weekends has gone from an unknown bike rider to 2 top 3 places in stages of the virtual Tour de France. Confirmation then of today's results. Here we are. Tanja Ereth, the winner, in 1 hour 6 minutes. In 2nd place, Chloe Dygert of Team 2020 from the United States of America. Then it was April Tacey in 3rd place again for Team Drops. The yellow jersey, Kristen Faulkner, there in 5th. And another Canyon SRAM rider, Alice Barnes, in 6th place. But Team 2020 have certainly had a good day. They had a lot of riders in that front group. Remember, points for the first 25 riders to cross the line. Here's the replay. Tanja Ereth using an aero power-up just as she made her way into the last few hundred meters. It made her more aerodynamic for 15 seconds, and it meant that she was able to win that race. Her average watts per kilo for the entire race, 4 watts per kilo. And our average heart rate, 154 beats a minute. Fantastic racing. Well, it just shows this course is relatively flat. It's rolling, it hurts the legs, but it suits a sprinter. Coming up in a few moments then, we will hear from Tanja Ereth, the winner of stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France.
Ich kann es auch noch ein Stück mehr stellen, dann hörst du mich besser.
Tanja Ereth, winner of stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. Many congratulations. Summarise your emotions for me on taking a stage victory on a platform that you know maybe better than any other bike rider.
Well, I'm super happy to win after the last stage. Yeah, I wasn't really disappointed because I really wanted to get that green jersey, and that went well. But yeah, stage win is always something special. So I thought, yes, this is kind of my thing. So I should win a stage. And that it worked out now makes me super happy.
I noticed just before the race that you really have been doing the work on Zwift over the last few weeks. I mean, this week you already rode nearly 250 kilometers. They talk about the Zwift IQ, the knowledge of the game. How much has it helped you this week?
Well, I think it's like in a normal bike race as well. Like it's a lot about positioning and timing. And yeah, I raced a lot on Zwift, especially in the last few months. And I could really see my knowledge increasing and improving. So yeah, I think it's a big, how can I say, really good to have the knowledge, to do well in the race.
And finally, then, we're going to finish on the Champs-Élysées, the virtual Champs-Élysées, the first time it's ever been raced. It suits a sprinter. Having got the morale from today, you fancy the Champs-Élysées next weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a dream come true to race on the Champs-Élysées. if not in real life, then at least virtually. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that stage as well. And I'm gonna give my best to go for a second stage win.
Well, congratulations, Tanya Areth, winner of stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. Savour this one. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Tanya Areth then. Tanya Areth, the winner of stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France for her Canyon SRAM team. You can see just how pleased she was with that victory today. She's certainly done the work. There's no doubt about that. Let's take a look then at the general classification. Team Tipco just hold on to the yellow jersey. So Kristen Faulkner was wearing that today. They now have a 23-point advantage in the yellow jersey competition. So the gap has been cut by the Canyon SRAM and the Drops team to the team of Tipco Silicon Valley Bank. So they're going to have to work very hard tomorrow to hold on to that yellow jersey on what is a little bit of a tough stage. You really have to have your wits about you tomorrow. The yellow jersey then stays with Team Tipco Silicon Valley Bank for stage 4 tomorrow. Kristen Faulkner was up there today in 5th place at the end of the stage, but she needed a few more of her teammates round about her. Remember, this is a team competition in this virtual Tour de France. Well, it's nice today that we've arrived in virtual France, taking its inspiration from various areas of France itself. The sunflower fields we're flying across, which of course feature in every Tour de France every year. Here's our green jersey contest. So Canyon SRAM now have the lead in the green jersey. That was worn today by Team Tipco, but Canyon SRAM now have a big lead. 62 points in the green jersey classification. That victory of Tanya Areth has really given the team of Canyon SRAM a huge lift. Team Drops now in 3rd place in that contest. Drops were in 4th place before the start of today, so they've moved up one more place as well. Here's the classification of the Queen of the Mountains, won today by April Tacey. And Drops now continue with their lead in the Queen of the Mountains. They've extended their advantage from 3 points to 4 over the Ceratizit WNT team from Germany. Some good work today done by the Drops riders, April Tacey and Finja Smekal, on the famous climb there of the Pont du Gard. Let's take a look then at the highlights of today's stage of the virtual Tour de France. A stage of 48 kilometres, a rolling stage, but really a day for the sprinters. The yellow jersey worn by Kristen Faulkner of Team Tipco Silicon Valley Bank. All the riders across the world, wherever they were, either at training camps or at home, we got a sense of just how tough this bike racing is on a simulated platform. It was rolling roads. You had to be mentally strong and physically strong, but as we went into the finish, it was Tanya Areth, the rider from Canyon SRAM, who took the stage victory. All the hard work paid off. Well, we're getting set now for the men's race. We've just seen the women's race. Last weekend, of course, we had some stunning racing in the men's competition overall. A reminder then that the NTT Pro Cycling team have the lead in the men's virtual Tour de France. 130 points to the team of NTT, with Alpecin Fenix in second place. They will have the yellow jersey today. The green jersey, also a wonderful weekend for Team NTT last week. They have the green jersey as well. The green jersey will be worn today by Edvald Bosenhagen. The yellow jersey worn by Ryan Gibbons, the winner of stage number 1 of the race last weekend. The King of the Mountains is on the shoulders of Israel Startup Nation, a team who've been very much in the headlines of world cycling this week. It'll be worn today by Itamar Einhorn, who will proudly wear that for Israel this afternoon. And finally, the mountains classification, the white jersey will be worn by the NTT Pro Cycling team. Again, that will be worn today by Rasmus Tiller, riding for NTT. Let's take a look then at the teams who will be riding. And look at that, Team Ineos field, the winner of the Tour de France in 2019. Egan Bernal is racing. Nasser Bouhanni also in here for the Arkea Samsic team. Esteban Chavez lines up for Mitchelton Scott. They've got a very strong team this afternoon. Elia Viviani of Cofidis is on his training camp right now, but he is here. And Ryan Gibbons for NTT, who have 3 of the jerseys within their squad. Gibbons, Tiller and Edvald Bosenhagen. Don't ever miss out on watching Team Rally from the USA. They are absolute masters of riding on Zwift. Here's our course, a reminder of it. Along the way today, we have 4 intermediate sprints and 2 King of the Mountains points at exactly the same points as we saw the women's race earlier on. Looking down on the peloton as the race gets underway.
Allô, allô, bonjour et bienvenue sur Radio Tour pour la 3e étape du Tour de France virtuel. La course est lancée, située sur le territoire français. Il y aura 2 tours de circuit à parcourir pour une distance totale de 48 km concernant les coureurs représentant 23 équipes. Hello and welcome to stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. The race is currently underway, situated on the French territory. 2 laps to be covered for a total distance of 48 kilometers for the riders representing 23 teams.
The voice then of Seb Piquet, the voice of Radio Tour of the Tour de France, as the men make their way onto the King of the Mountains on the simulated Pont de Gard here in France, the virtual world of France. The Pont de Gard, which of course is from the 1st century AD, a Roman aqueduct. As Ryan Gibbons now heads towards the King of the Mountains, is he going to take it? The yellow jersey's there, but Krieger is going to be first across the line. A big acceleration at the front by Alexander Krieger, over 10 watts per kilo as he made his way to the top of the climb there, riding for the Alpecin Fenix squad. Well, Alpecin Fenix are definitely on the hunt for this jersey, the King of the Mountains. Ryan Gibbons was up there in the yellow. So it looks like Alexander Krieger continued the good form of the Alpecin Fenix team. They are in 2nd place overall in the King of the Mountains. Israel have 17 points. Alpecin Fenix have 10. So that will mix things up just a little bit. It looks like we have a little group of 4 riders going away. 4 riders who've attacked over that climb. So Gibbons is there in the yellow jersey. Alexander Krieger is also in here. And it looks like we've got Janssens as the peloton work their way back to this front group of 4. Alexander Krieger then from Alpecin Phoenix, a teammate of Mathieu van der Poel. Mathieu not riding today. There he is. Look at the face on Alexander Krieger. We're not picking up his heart rate, but look how hard he is working right now. Really having to put the pressure on just to stay in the group after going for those mountains points. All important for the riders in the King of the Mountains classification. He'll be able to get himself into the draft and try and stay there. He's got about 3 kilometers to go until we reach our second of our intermediate sprints. Current situation in the intermediate sprints contest is that NTT have the lead. CCC are in second place. So CCC have picked up a few points today in the first of our intermediate sprints, but NTT are in very, very good form. They've got 106 points compared to the 55 of the CCC team, who are in second place. So the points classification, there's shots of the NTT team, are all on a training camp and all riding together. Look at the face of Ryan Gibbons. This is extremely hard right now. 83 revs a minute, nearly 360 watts for the NTT riders. Used a featherweight power up then. So NTT took the maximum points in the first sprint. They got 12 points. CCC took second and Cofidis took third place. Notice the team directors in the background just keeping an eye on the riders and just giving them a little bit of encouragement. It's good that the team is all together there though, because they're able to keep each other going, and this is a team contest, so it's all about how you as a team can score the maximum amount of points in the various different classifications. Don't forget, today you can vote for your most combative rider. If you go to @LeTour on Twitter, you can vote for your favourite rider in the most aggressive rider, as we see an attack from the British rider Charlie Quarterman. It's a new signing for this season for Trek Segafredo. Did manage to ride Tour de la Provence earlier on in the season, and an aero power-up, a no draft power-up being used by Edvald Bosenhagen here, putting out 6.8 watts per kilo. This increases the draft effect by 50% for 30 seconds. I think Edvald is just getting rid of this power-up before he gets to the next point on the horizon. But a big attack here by the rider in the green jersey, stage winner, of course, in the Tour de France. But Edvald is one of the most notorious riders on the Zwift platform. There is Charlie Quarterman, signed by the Trek Segafredo team after they saw his performance in the Under-23 British Championship. He puts out very, very good statistics, and particularly on this sort of racing, Charlie Quarterman, as a time trialist on a flat course like this with good power output, will be very, very useful indeed. Coming up towards the intermediate sprint, we're 300 meters from it, and the peloton gets lined out. Let's see who's going to get across the line first, and it looks to me like Ryan Gibbons in the yellow jersey is going to try and take the maximum points again. Ryan Gibbons first across the line. Also up there was Callum Scottson, the Australian rider, riding for the team of Mitchelton Scott, of course, teammate of Esteban Chavez. Gibbons is on superb form right now in the virtual Tour de France. Stage 1 winner, and he's up there in the King of the Mountains points, and he's going after sprints and everything. Looks to be very, very relaxed in this form of racing. On the front, Jeremy Lecroc of the team of B&B Hotels Vital Concept, French team in the turquoise colours. Duval now takes over the pacemaking, 47 kilometres an hour. And it does feel like that sort of speed when you ride on this simulated racing. If you've never seen this racing before, very warm welcome to you. We'll try and explain how it works, but in principle, the riders are riding on home smart trainers. The trainers talk to a computer as we see a replay of the sprint across that sprint point with Ryan Gibbons leading. The computer talks to the smart trainer that the riders are riding on, and it gives them the feeling and the sensation of how steep the climbs are, how fast the descents are, and how it is simulated across flat roads as well. Well, the sprint there, I called that wrong, so my apologies. It was Amaury of CCC who was first across the line. And Ryan Gibbons not showing in the power there, so we saw him. Sometimes the data doesn't quite show what is happening on the screen. So Amaury was the rider who took the maximum points in that intermediate sprint, and that's going to help CCC now, because CCC are starting to accumulate a few points. Charlie Quarterman near the front. Nearly 20 kilometres of racing covered. Ryan Gibbons in the yellow jersey.
Hi, this is Ryan Gibbons. It was absolutely incredible to take part in the first ever virtual Tour de France and to pick up the first victory on stage one made it that much more special. As a team, obviously it raised the spirits. You know, there's not much racing going on at the moment, so to get any kind of victory, whether it be virtual or not, is something great, and we're definitely looking to build on this in the races to come. I'll be in the yellow jersey for stage 3, and yeah, I think we're definitely going to be aiming to keep it all the way until the final stage. So very, very grateful to be included in this, and definitely going to be chasing success.
The South African champion Ryan Gibbons in the yellow jersey. Well, he's certainly inspired by riding, at least being involved in a race, albeit a virtual race. It doesn't really matter for these guys. They're all competitive. They don't want to be beaten. Only 28 kilometres remaining. Towards the back of the group now, wearing number 191, Roman Cardis on the left-hand side, riding for Total Direct Energy. All the World Tour teams taking part in the race. This is the group of Egan Bernal, wearing number 2. And Egan not necessarily having a great afternoon of it in this race. Also Nasser Bouhanni in his group as well. So Egan Bernal looks like he's been dropped from the front group. Not necessarily his sort of terrain today. There he is in that group. Nasser Bouhanni in the group. A couple of the riders from the Bahrain McLaren team are also in here. Gregor Boll and Jan Tratnik. There is Egan Bernal. I don't think Egan's having the best of days. Riding there with all the background of the yellow jerseys and everything else. So the motivation is there for Egan. But I think today is not necessarily his day. Look, the smile is out the saddle a little bit. Well, it'll be great to see him back racing very, very soon. The winner of the Tour de France last year. This week, of course, we had the lead into the news of this week. Egan Bernal saying that the comments that he made about being the leader for the Tour de France, that Chris Froome wasn't too upset about. But of course, this week, the speculation that Team Ineos have had about the future of Chris Froome came to a head. And Team Ineos then decided to make a statement to say that Chris Froome's contract would not be extended for next season. And then subsequently, about 10 minutes later, Israel Startup Nation announced the biggest coup of their team ever as they signed Chris Froome for 2021 onwards. Confirmation then that NTT are firmly in the green jersey, 128 points to Mitchelton Scott's 59. And we are heading now towards the next point on the horizon, which will be the completion of lap number 1. Edvald Boasson in the green jersey. There we are with the various shots of everybody. Picking out Sebastian Langerfeld. Here's our next group. Jack Bauer is in there at the top left-hand side. Leah Viviani also rolling along on the second row there. Lovely to see all these riders across the world racing in their various different terrains. Some of the teams all together, some riders at home, some riders in their offices or their local fan clubs, perhaps. As we make our way around these rolling little roads in towards the completion of lap number 1, this first lap of 24 kilometres. "28 minutes of racing, 29, and we've covered almost 24 kilometres. You can see how fast this race is this afternoon. Underneath the red kite, 1 kilometre to go to the completion of the lap. Bert-Jan Lindemann is in here for Jumbo-Visma. Talking to some of the team directors about this racing, they just see this as good to bring the team together, to get the riders into that competitive spirit again. It's been a long, long time since they have been with their teams. Gunda Court near the front, riding for Trek Segafredo. Into the last few hundred metres of lap number 1. Christian Knies near the front now for Team Ineos, also Boasson. Jan Bakelans is also up here. Jan Bakelans, who had that terrible crash a couple of years ago, but he's recovered now. It's wonderful to see him back racing now for the Circus Wanty Jobert team. And we're going to come up to complete the first lap. A few of the power-ups being used so they can pick up a new power-up when they go underneath the arch. One rider using the Ghost power-up, which basically makes you invisible for a period of time. Makes you invisible to all the other riders for 10 seconds. So if you feel like setting yourself up for an attack, you can go invisible and then you can attack, and the riders don't see you until 10 seconds later. Kirsch now at the front. Here's a little bit of stats for you. Top 3 over the first King of the Mountains. This is the workload. So Ryan Gibbons put out 5.39 watts per kilo over the top. Alexander Krieger, who won the King of the Mountains, 5.41, but Rooch of EF Education First put out the most watts per kilo out of those riders chasing across the top of the climb. Just shows that tactically you might be putting out the most watts, but tactically you didn't get your place in the peloton right to win that King of the Mountains point itself. Boasson still always near the front. I think he really fancies this afternoon. Can he win the stage? Remember, you can decide where the most combative rider goes this afternoon. Boasson 365 watts. There he is, look at the face, alongside Ryan Gibbons and the rest of the NTT team. So Maximilian Walscheid and Rasmus Tiller are in the same room with Edvald. Look at the face of Edvald. Concentration at 176 beats per minute for his heart rate. 33 years of age now, 3 stage wins in the Tour de France. Winner of Ghent-Wevelgem, winner of the Tour of Britain, 5 stage wins in the Dauphiné. He looks lean and fit this year, doesn't he, Edvald Boasson? He is one of the most prolific riders on this simulated platform itself. Before the start today, he'd ridden 19,776 kilometres on Zwift itself. Back with the group now, 22 kilometres to go. And our next point will be the intermediate sprint. So we've got a little bit of time. We've got about 9 kilometres until we reach the next of our intermediate sprints. Fred Wright, the British rider of Bahrain McLaren, is at the front. Constantly changing though, isn't it? If you keep an eye on the right-hand side of the screen, you can get an indication of whether anyone is attacking or anyone is having to work hard to move back up in the group. Koen is in here. There's Jan Bakelans. We were talking about him a moment ago. There he is. He's got his headphones on so he can hear what the team are saying. Jan Bakelans really working that bike, isn't he? Rocking and rolling a little bit. And if you're wondering, do you have to change gear on here? You literally have to ride this as though you're a rider in the riding on the road. It's exactly the same. You have to change gear, you have to think about where you are in the group, you have to think about being in the draft all the time. So Koen sent me a message earlier on today. He's actually riding today's stage at altitude. He lives near Andorra, or in Andorra, and so he was saying that that's going to not help him today because he's at altitude. And riding this sort of race at altitude is extremely tough. But he said he's going to give it a good go. Give it a good chance today of trying to win today's stage. 49 kilometres an hour. This is stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. Last weekend we saw Ryan Gibbons take stage 1. He was riding for NTT. Julien Bernard took stage 2 for Trek Segafredo. Teams who also featured in the action pretty well. Leandre Cote of Team Rally. Freddie Ovett of Israel was also up there. As we see Michael Matthews now reaching the front for Team Sunweb. There is Michael Matthews on his balcony, working really hard for Team Sunweb. Sunweb now all together in a training camp in, I believe, Austria. So they've put all the team in effect into a bubble so they can all be looked after ahead of racing. 3 stage wins, of course, in the Tour de France. Green jersey of the Tour de France in 2017. Michael Matthews good this afternoon. Won't be riding the Tour this year in terms of the real Tour de France. He'll be riding the Giro d'Italia this time. .48 kilometres an hour now as we make our way over the little pave section across the bridge. Still a few kilometres to the next point on the horizon, around 7 kilometres of racing until we reach the intermediate sprint. Back here with Yves Lampert, riding for De Kooning Quickstep, 29 years of age. He's ridden a little bit on Zwift, 1,086 kilometres. He's there with one of his teammates. They're a little bit further back down the road. There is Yves Lampert. This has hurt this afternoon. The jersey is unzipped. The heart rate monitor just showing. But 2 of the De Kooning Quickstep riders not enjoying this at all. He's with Steinstiels. But once you get dropped out of the group, it literally feels like when you're dropped from a peloton. You fight hard, you try to get into the wheels, and it's almost impossible once the legs have given out to get yourself back into the peloton itself. Now, those of you watching at home and thinking this looks hard, but it looks fun, you can literally set yourself up. You can go onto the Zwift app at any time. You can take part in rides and races. You get an opportunity to ride with the pros from time to time. There are races literally every hour of the day on this platform as well. So it gives you a chance to test yourself out as we go over one of these lovely little simulated bridges with the Mont Saint-Michel in the background. Well, the Mont Saint-Michel, which of course has featured in the Tour de France, it's become one of those iconic images that we see from time to time in the Tour. And why wouldn't it be in the virtual France? The route à grande vitesse, today's course. 5 kilometers to go until we meet the next intermediate sprint. Another shot of Edvald Boasson. His stats continue to show us that he's working at a very high rate here, 322 watts. Mentally, you can just see how hard he's looking at that screen, just staying in there, keeping himself going. 174 beats a minute. We haven't seen his heart rate too much higher than that. But still rolling along at nearly 50 kilometers an hour. Don't forget to vote for your most combative rider. Go to Twitter @LeTour and you can vote for your most aggressive rider of the day. Sepp van Marke up towards the front. Moreno Hofland is also now near the front of the peloton. Sebastian Langefeld, winner of Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, also in here. Fred Wright is looking good. Rally Cycling have got one of their riders in here, Matteo Dalcin, who is a rider who could win today's stage for sure. Rally takes Zwift racing really, really seriously. Larry Wilbass, former American champion, now in 6th place as he just drops back a little bit. Callum Scottson, very good track rider, Callum Scottson, very good time trialist, so he will have good ability in here. Here's Bert-Jan Lindemann of Team Jumbo-Visma. There he is. No jersey for Bert-Jan this afternoon. Bert-Jan Lindemann, team coach, is pointing out what's going on. He's 31 years of age, winner of the Tour de l'Ain, a stage winner, of course, in the Vuelta a España, as we see an attack here from Alex Kirsch. Big attack at the front. Alex Kirsch goes clear for the Trek Segafredo team, putting out 7.1 watts per kilo. Look at this for an attack. 549 watts. Huge turn of speed. Can he stay away? We don't see too many attacks go clear on these rolling type of courses. This 28-year-old rider from Luxembourg has got a little bit of an advantage now. This is a very, very good attack. Look at the face on Alex Kirsch. Absolutely thumping those pedals along. 558 watts, 85 revs per minute. He's in the corridor in his house. The fan is blowing on him. And the effort is absolutely substantial now. 49 kilometers per hour. 6th in Le Samin. He's got a contract with Trek Segafredo to the end of 2021. This is very impressive from Alex Kirsch. You can see the little thumbs up coming down, raining down on the rider. The back pocket filling up with kind of blue light. That's all the thumbs up, the ride-ons that are given by the fans in Zwift to a rider who's on the attack. Alex Kirsch about to be caught by the peloton. Lovely attack by Alex Kirsch. All back together. Don't forget to follow the hashtag TDFUnited. You can donate to one of our 5 cycling charities if you're enjoying this virtual Tour de France. The watts per kilo, all now around 5 watts per kilo. As we hit 51 kilometers an hour, we are just around 1.5 kilometers now to the sprint. Here's our average watts per kilogram in the last 5K. So Michael Matthews' average watts 4.3 and Ryan Gibbons 4.9 watts per kilo in the last 5 kilometers of racing. Looks like Michael Matthews may have cracked a little bit. He's no longer in that, so sure he's in that front group anymore. In the front group for sure, Ryan Gibbons, the yellow jersey. Remember, a team competition, so it's held by the team of NTT. As we go through the sunflower fields, Max Welscheid is in the front group. Larry Warbass, Sepp van Marker, Fred Wright, Edvald Bosenhagen, Kunda Kort, Rasmus Tiller, Thomas Budak is also in there. Sebastian Langefeld heading now towards the Pave sprint. Who's going to take the sprint this time? Let's take a little look. Towards the front is Edvald Bosenhagen, trying to take the points for NTT. Bosenhagen first across the line that time. Gibbons and Bosenhagen giving their team loads of points this afternoon. 36 kilometres covered in 44 minutes. Only 12 kilometres remain. We're going to make our way onto the Pont de Gard for the Aqueduct King of the Mountains. One last time, of course, by the Alpecin Phoenix rider. Alexander Krieger was the first rider across the line last time. If you'd like to join me on Twitter this afternoon, @AntMcCrossan is where you can join me. This peloton of riders is diminishing in numbers now, isn't it? Let's take a look at the replay. Edvald Bosenhagen towards the front there. Ruch was in second place and also up near the front. Looked to me like it was Callum Scottson again. Ethan Hayter is also in here, so Edvald Bosenhagen first across the line, Scottson second. Ruch of EF Education first was in third place. Kunda Kort also up there in 8th place. Kunda Kort is a level 29 rider on Zwift. He's ridden about 6,000k. He rode it a lot during lockdown. Now we make our way onto the final King of the Mountains of today's stage. Ryan Gibbons looking for some more points. Krieger is also up there for the Alpecin Phoenix team. He looks to be making a little bit of a move. Krieger looking for the maximum points. A power-up being used as well. Who's going to get it? One rider across the line first. It might have been Ruch who took it. Krieger was also up there scoring some good points for the Alpecin Phoenix team, which should mean that Alpecin Phoenix hold on to that King of the Mountains jersey. Looks like Ruch of EF Education first was the rider across the line in the lead. Ethan Hayter is now in this group and riding well. There is Jonas Ruch. 355 watts at the moment. Takes a gel. As he nears the end of this stage, he wants to get a little bit more energy into that body for the run into the finish. Right, we've got 10.5 kilometres to go. We have one more intermediate sprint. We're around 4 kilometres from that. That's for the green jersey, remember. And the group now down to around 24, maybe 25 riders. Confirmation on the Aqueduct climb. Ruch took 3 points, Krieger took 2, Janssens took 1 point. So Alpecin Phoenix again scoring some good points. All accumulated towards this team competition. Constantly changing at the front of this group now. Fast downhill, some power-ups being used because a final power-up can be gained at the intermediate sprint points. Some breakaway burritos being used, makes it undraftable. Your avatar undraftable for 10 seconds. A reminder today that Egan Bernal is riding, but he is certainly not now riding at any sort of pace. He's just spinning along. He's been dropped from the group and he's just going to ride his way into the finish. Sam Bewley in his group with him. Egan Bernal putting in some huge rides in preparation for this year's Tour de France. The mountains classification then, oh look, Israel have now secured just one more point than Alpes and Fenix, so they are holding on to the jersey. Alpes and Fenix have closed to 1 point, but Israel will maintain their lead in the King of the Mountains. So Itamar Einhorn, who was in the King of the Mountains today, he hasn't secured many points, but his team will hold on to that jersey and fight another day tomorrow. 8.7 kilometers to go on stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. Don't forget to vote for your most combative rider of today's stage. Go to @LeTour and you can vote for your most aggressive rider of the day. Now these riders will be starting to think about how they can win today's stage. It's not just about brute power into the finish. You've got to think about the power-up that you have, when you use it, how close to the finish you use it. Ryan Gibbons and Bosenhagen side by side in the same room. It must be hot in there this afternoon with those two riders. The whole team is lined up. So you've got to think about your tactics, you've got to think about being in the draft. And almost on Zwift, when you're going into the finish, it's like 2 sprints. 1 sprint to get in the wheels, and a second sprint, a big acceleration near the finish to win the stage. A little bit like Tanya Arith did earlier on. Callum Scottson now putting out 6 watts per kilo. Ethan Hayter, he could be an outside winner this afternoon, I tell you. Ethan Hayter, who is one of the new members of Team Ineos, came from the British track team, so he will have that ability to ride on this sort of trainer at a sustained threshold for a long period of time, and he's always near the front of this race through to the next sprint. This is the final sprint of the day. Edvald Bosenhagen took the last one. This is for the green jersey. 10 points for the first rider across the line. 8, 6, 4, 2 and 1 for the next riders. And those points will be added as a team to your points classification already. Heading towards the line. Roach looks like he's up there at the front yet again. But it might have been Nicholas Mize who was the first rider. We'll just wait for the replay and for the confirmation. Few riders using their power-ups very, very early. May well have been good to wait until the final flourish in the finish line, because if you can put out a huge amount of power and reduce your weight by 9.5 kilos for 15 seconds, then a lot of riders are going to struggle to stay on your wheel. Christian Knies near the front. Lawrence Nazen also there. Mikael Goash, the Polish rider of Team Ineos, is also near the front. Ryan Gibbons, the yellow jersey, we can pick him out nice and easily. The green jersey of Edvald Bosenhagen. Ethan Hayter has a very good chance in here. So does Matteo Dalcin of Rally. Simone Consoni is in here. Fred Wright is also in this group for Bahrain McLaren. The faces on these riders. Nicholas Mize of Lotto Soudal at the top. This looks really, really hard now as he just tries to get himself cooled down a little bit for the run into the finish. Nicholas Mize, the Belgian rider, in the red, white and black towards the back of the group. Don't forget, vote for your favourite rider in terms of the most aggressive rider competition. Nicholas Mize looking down at us there after that big effort in that last sprint. 380 watts now, 49 kilometres an hour. Sitting in the draft. More thumbs up being rained down on these riders from the fans in Zwift, who are giving them what we call ride-ons. Larry Warbass now near the front. The second sprint then taken by Nicholas Mize. Callum Scottson in second place. Janssens of Alpecin Phoenix was in third. Now it's going to be an interesting run-in now, isn't it? Bosenhagen, maybe the race favourite. Ethan Hayter also up there. Christian Knies has looked strong all afternoon on this stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. Odd Christian Eiking is also in here, and he is a rider who could surprise everybody. Charlie Quarterman, can he give Trek Segafredo another win? Big attack at the front. One rider going clear. Only 4.5 kilometres remain, and Quarterman's trying to stretch this race. Charlie Quarterman goes on the attack. Big move by Charlie Quarterman. And 3 riders now at the front. Kamil Gradek is also here for CCC. Christian Knies, the big power riders. Quarterman putting out over 7 watts per kilo as he went on the move. The peloton, though, recognise the danger and they bring it all back together. .45 kilometres in 55 minutes. That's pretty quick. Just looking through to see what other sprinters might be in here for the finish. But for me, the favourites will be the likes of Edvald Bosenhagen, Ryan Gibbons, for sure. Charlie Quarterman put in a big attack then, but now he's starting to suffer. Look at the shoulders going absolutely everywhere. Just trying to hold on in this group. Ethan Hayter's got to be in with a good shout of winning in here this afternoon. Only 3.4 kilometres remain. Now we go through this little rolling section. There's a little kick at the end of this that really hurts your legs. You have to really hold on. And then it's fast in towards the finish line. Jake Stewart is also in here as well. So there's a few teams with good representation. Just a reminder that the virtual Tour de France is a team competition. You need to score points to the finish. There are 50 points for the winner this afternoon. The first 25 riders are given points. Those are then added to the tally the team already have. The team who have the most points at the end of every stage is given the yellow jersey, and it's been given then to the next stage to one of their riders. Look at the face of Edvald Bosenhagen. Nearly 180 beats a minute now. This is starting to hurt. He knows that it's getting close to the end. He's gritting his teeth. The grimace of Bosenhagen. He knows he's just got to stay there. 2,200 metres remain. Stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. NTT had a wonderful weekend last weekend. Can they keep the yellow jersey? Can they secure the jerseys that they've had already? Bosenhagen wins the combativity prize this afternoon for being so aggressive. So thank you to all of you who voted for Edvald Bosenhagen. He will get the most combative rider of the day. 1,800 metres to go. Now it starts to get quick on the run into the finish. Langerfeld near the front. The winner of Omloop had Noisblad riding for EF Education first. Jansen's on his wheel. Reto Hollenstein is up there. Charlie Quarterman, after a couple of big attacks, is also there. Kunda Court is near the front for the Trek Segafredo team. Also in there, Callum Scottson. Ethan Hayter is near the front for Team Ineos. Callum Scottson moving up. Jan Bakelans is also in here for the Circus 1T Jobert team. He's just surfing the wheels. Fred Wright moves up for Bahrain McLaren. A few power-ups being used as we reach 1 kilometre. It's probably a little bit early for that. One rider using the cloak power-up. Right, we're getting ready. Gibbons is there. Boassenhagen, look at the face on Edvald Boassenhagen on the right-hand side. The power is on. Riders using the draft power-up, which increases the draft effect in the peloton by 50% for 30 seconds. So it helps your legs just recover a little bit. Gives you a little bit of a suck along inside the peloton. Now we're starting to head in towards the finish. Boassenhagen is at the front. Also up at the front is Alex Kirsch. Near the front also is Hollenstein, the final right-hand turn. Who's going to take today's stage? Kirsch is on the front. Also near the front is Jake Stewart. Ryan Gibbons, the yellow jersey, goes for the finish line now. Gibbons going for the finish. Can he win another stage? Also there is Kunda Court. Kunda Court of Trek Segafredo. Jake Stewart, Callum Scottson on the line. It was maybe a win for Rally. Matteo Dalcin of Team Rally may well have taken the victory. Well, they take this racing very, very seriously. They had last week second place with Pierre-André Cote, but it looks to me like it could be a win for Matteo Dalcin. We'll wait to see who takes it. Was it Edvald Boassenhagen? Was he up there? It looks like it may well be also between him and Matteo Dalcin, but we wait for the result. What a stunning run into the finish. This is Matteo Dalcin of Rally Cycling. Did he take it? Edvald Boassenhagen, he's not showing on my screen at the moment. He may well have faded, but Matteo Dalcin of Rally Cycling, this rider could have surprised all the big names. Jake Stewart for me was in second. Callum Scottson was up there in third. And Matteo Dalcin of Rally Cycling is showing me as the winner of today's stage. What a ride by this rider from Rally Cycling. While we wait for confirmation on the screen, the 29-year-old from Ottawa, Ontario. Here's the classification to confirm it. And it was Matteo Dalcin of Rally Cycling who wins in 59 minutes. Jake Stewart of Groupama FDJ in second place, the British rider. Then it was Callum Scottson, Ethan Hayter in fourth for Team Ineos. Then Ryan Gibbons of NTT, Rasmus Tiller of NTT. So good combination of those riders. Kunda Court in seventh place. But the 29-year-old Canadian has given the Wildcards Team Rally a huge victory. He took it just on the finish line from Jake Stewart. Well, Matteo is a former Canadian road champion. He used a power-up just before the finish line, and that's given Rally Cycling a massive victory. Matteo Dalcin of Rally Cycling wins today's stage. We're going to hear from him very, very soon. Bingen Fernandez in the background of NTT, the team, Edvald Boassenhagen smiling away. Well, they gave it a good go, didn't they? Ryan Gibbons finishing again in the top places. I wouldn't be surprised if they've held on to the yellow jersey. But before the start of today, Rally were in third place with 92 points. So we'll work out the classifications. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the racing. Edvald Boasson, the most combative rider. Thank you to all of you who have messaged me on Twitter this afternoon as well. Appreciate you getting in touch. A very quick race this afternoon, 48.8 kilometres in a very fast time of well under an hour. So Jake Stewart in second place, Callum Scottson in third, then Ethan Hayter, Ryan Gibbons, the winner of stage 1, was in fifth, then Rasmus Tiller in sixth, Kundekorn in seventh, Lorenzo Manzin in eighth, then Jonas Rutsch and Alex Kirsch. Edvald Boasson just warming down after that huge effort. He looks a lot happier now. There is Elia Viviani, Ryan Gibbons. Well, we've got used to now this virtual world, haven't we? It'll be nice to see the riders back on the roads of the Tour de France on the 29th of August. But until then, just seeing these great athletes in action, albeit on a virtual platform, is good to see. It gives you a sense that the world is coming back to some semblance of normal, and the hope of sport across the world picking up is firmly in all of us now. Well, Matteo finished fifth in stage 2 of the Digital Swiss race, which was another virtual race this year. There's Ryan Gibbons just warming his legs down after that huge sprint. NTT have really taken this seriously, this race. For them, very important to perform on the roads of the Tour de France, albeit the virtual roads. For them as sponsors of that squad, they are very close to the Tour de France. They produce a lot of the data that we see on the screen, so for them it's critical to be part of this afternoon. Well, we're going to hear from Matteo in a second. Matteo,
I have no idea if they can hear me.
Matteo, congratulations on winning stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. Hopefully we'll get him on the camera. Matteo, can you hear us this afternoon?
I can open my Zoom. Wait, they're talking.
He doesn't seem to be able to hear us at the moment.
Okay, I'm good. Oh, great. Thanks.
So we'll see if Matteo can hear us. Matteo, can you hear us?
Oh, thanks, guys.
Matteo, you were on the phone. Obviously, everyone wants to call you.
ASO's attention. So it's going to be ASO first, Matteo, and then it's going to be Greg Henderson there for the Zwift Power
So, Matteo, let's talk to us now. Matteo,
Yeah,
Matteo, congratulations.
Perfect, thanks. I'm just going to get
Matteo
ASO's
on
attention.
stage 3, the win of the virtual Tour de France. Matteo, you're live now this afternoon. Congratulations on winning stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. Can you talk us through that victory? Matteo, you're live with us now. Can you hear us? I don't know if he can hear us this afternoon. Matteo, can you hear us this afternoon? I don't hear him. We'll wait and see if he can hear us. There he is. He's adjusting the camera for us. Matteo, can you hear us?
Yeah.
There he is. Matteo, congratulations. We've been watching you doing your shoes up and everything else after that race. Congratulations on winning stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. Talk us through that run-in. It looked like you used a power-up in the last few hundred metres. Talk us through the last few hundred metres of that stage.
Yeah, we got some tips from the Saris indoor specialist team that is out of the States, and they said, like, through that twisty section, the draft kind of like came and went. So I was just trying to stay up front and then wait until like 200-300 to go to use the power up, because I think that's about like what he said it would last for. And then just sprinted with everything I had until the end, and looked up and saw the little finish screen and said that I was in first. So that was super cool.
Your team take this racing very, very seriously, don't you? But you've beaten this afternoon some huge names. Edvald Bosenhagen was in that sprint. Ryan Gibbons was in that sprint. What does it mean to you as a rider in a wild card team to win a stage? Yeah, I mean, I'm beyond stoked. Our team set us up with like an incredible setup from Wahoo. So yeah, we definitely pulled out all the stops as far as the computer and equipment setup went to try and give us a fighting chance. Sorry, I just got some noise there. So I mean, I'm beyond thrilled with being able to pull out a result for the team. And the final question then, we hear you've got a secret weapon in the team in Holden Como, who's a Zwift pro racer. How much influence has he had on the team on winning today? Oh, yeah. I mean, he's been like an invaluable resource. We were all like pretty new to the Zwift platform. I mean, myself and a couple of the other Canadians who live up in the snow had dabbled in it in the wintertime. But yeah, he basically has talked us through all the tips and tricks that he's learned. And yeah, I mean, I don't think that we would be in with a fighting chance without him. Well, many congratulations, Matteo, stage winner of the virtual Tour de France, riding for Team Rally. Congratulations and very well done. Cheers. Thanks so much. Well, we got him in the end. It took a little bit of time till he did his shoes up and he worked out that we were talking to him, but we got him, the winner of the stage. But here's the classification then. NTT, remember it's a team classification. Once the points have been added up, NTT maintain their lead in the yellow jersey with 193 points, as Rally are in second place with 156. The yellow jersey will be worn tomorrow on the French roads in Zwift by NTT. That yellow jersey, are they going to hold it all the way to the end? Trek Segafredo now in third place after today's race. The green jersey classification, another good day for NTT Pro Cycling. They increase their advantage, 161 points now. Mitchelton Scott in second place with 85. So the green jersey now on the shoulders yet again of NTT Pro Cycling. That's a pretty big lead now that NTT have in the green jersey. Still 3 stages to go though. We have another stage tomorrow and 2 stages next weekend, finishing of course on the Champs-Élysées. Our next jersey classification is the King of the Mountains, and Israel Startup Nation maintain their advantage with a 1-point lead now on Alpecin Phoenix with 16 points, Israel on 17. EF move up into third place with 10 points now. Tomorrow's stage is a little bit of a different proposition than today, so we're going to look forward to how that stage goes. Different lineup tomorrow of riders, so some riders will maintain their position. Well, thank you for joining us for stage 3 of the virtual Tour de France. We were on the roads of virtual France today as we saw the riders toiling across the world in their various locations, riding against each other in this virtual world that we've become used to. Today's stage, though, taken by Matteo Dalcin of the rally cycling team. The Canadian former road champion was today's victor. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.